Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm gonna be giving you part 2 of What If Naruto Was Told about the Uzumaki Clan from the beginning. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, if you're new, yes, I have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post What If on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button to become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, as Naruto was sad as a child, incredibly so, seeing that he tried to make friends, but all of the parents always told their kids to stay away from him, like he was some sort of monster. It was having a negative effect on him, as Hiruzen saw that. So he decided to do something to show Naruto that he was not alone, as he told him that he had a clan, the Uzumaki Clan, something that greatly surprised Naruto as his last name. It was a part of a clan, as he was delighted to know, as Hiruzen told him that he would bring him there, the ruins of Uzu, but he cannot tell a single soul about it, no one at all. But Naruto was still happy to hear that. Years passed after that, as Naruto was now grown. He was currently in a training trip with Jiraiya, as both of them were duking it out. Jiraiya was in his base form as he hadn't entered Sage mode, yet Naruto was giving him a warm time. As their battle destroyed the surrounding area, it might look like they were out to kill each other, it looked like they were out for blood, but they were not, they were just doing a sparring session. Although Jiraiya was knocked down and he had severe cuts all over his body. But he said if he would have entered Sage mode, Naruto would have been done for. But the kid has come far, yes, really far. A lot of things has happened over the past years. The most important was the old man's death, that really scarred Naruto a lot. And also, there was Sasuke defecting from the village. That made Naruto quite angry as well. But it seems that Naruto was happy to be out of the village. He wasn't drive on going back for anytime soon now. But Jiraiya knew that he would have to go back soon enough, as he would have to talk to Tsunade at the village. Tsunade was kind of angry, as through the entire time Naruto has not sent her a single letter. Everything she heard it from Jiraiya, as that made her quite angry that Naruto was not talking to her or saying how things were going. After all, there was no bad blood between them, as she was quite angry at that he was not responding at all. If it takes any longer, she would have to order them to come back, because it has been 2.5 years now and the training trip has still not come to an end. So if anything, she would have to order them to come back to the village. So she was just waiting. Sakura was also kind of feeling bad with herself, given the way that she had treated Naruto. But the girl was still obsessed with Sasuke, as she wanted to find Sasuke, keep on asking Tsunade if there has been any news on Sasuke, but there has been none. As there was also news going around about the Uzumaki Clan. Fear was building around the elemental nation, because there was someone known as the Emperor that was bringing back the Uzumaki Clan together. No one knew the exact details, but the people near Takiri had saw the remnants and the rise of the clan once again. The Hidden Stone was panicking, seeing that they were a part of the group that destroyed the Uzumakis, a peaceful clan that never wanted war, but quite dangerous when it comes to Fuinjutsu, so they had to watch their backs. As Naruto was by himself, a bird came to him and delivered some documents to him as he signed them and read through them. Something mysterious, as he sent it back after feeding the bird. As both him and Jiraiya made their way, as Jiraiya sent Naruto on a mission, as it would be up to him if the people live or die, as he had to go inside the place and rescue the hostages, as Naruto did it swiftly and fast. No one got killed as he was able to take out all of the goons. After the time passed, Jerry decided that it was time to move on once again. But he will be going back to Konoha to speak to Tsunade, and not to mention, he had a few errands he needed to run. So he was gonna leave Naruto somewhere. Somewhere rather reliable and trustworthy. So yeah guys, so basically that's what I thought. You guys can switch your cards to the place injector for yourself. So this will begin this new episode. We have to go our separate ways right now, said Jiraiya. There's some things I have to deal with. You have to go to the sand and try to finish your wind training there. The environment is very conducive there. I will send you a message once we're done, and we will talk about concluding things. The last time I checked, we didn't have a good relationship with the Hidden Sand, said Naruto. The Sand had invaded the village, and he ended up fighting their Jinchuriki and defeating him. Had Konoha had some bad leaders, they would have certainly marched and decimate the Sand. But Konoha had good leaders who wanted to avoid the bloodshed and work out peace. That has been resolved, said Jiraiya. Tsunade smoothed some things out, but there are still some people that is a bit worried. They did betray us, they can do it again. At least some people are thinking that. As Naruto looked thoughtful for a moment, then I must confirm how things are. There, before I take things to a next level, my training is nothing more than convenience. You're not a bad student, said Jiraiya. Kakashi always spoke about reading underneath, said Naruto. And the desert would be unpleasant if you get caught in a sandstorm. But it should be fine, you can always consider it a training trip. You really like Trial by Fire Sensei, said Naruto. You threw me into a deep pit for me to learn how to summon toads. One of these days, you will be drunk and you will wake up next to old hag while posing nude. Jiraiya shivered at that thought, knowing that Tsunade would try to kill him. Let's not go that far, he said. I sent a message to the Sabukuna family to inform of their visit. I thought it'd be suitable they know. As Naruto looked up in the sky, I'll camp by the border tonight and enter the desert before the sun rises, he said. Don't try to learn the Kyuubi power there. We don't want you to accidentally level the Hidden Sand to the ground. As Jiraiya could actually see that happening, the fox had enough firepower to do that. The only way that he survived was because of Fuinjutsu. Even in Naruto's weaker state in the fox form, it was still immensely dangerous. If it wasn't for his sealing arts, he would have been dead. We shall see, said Naruto as he shrugged. A day later, the Hidden Sand. Traveling documents, those are essential. If you were going to walk through the gate of any hidden village, you need them. It didn't matter if you were wearing a headband or just a civilian. You needed papers to show where you came from. It was for security reasons. They didn't want anyone from anywhere to just enter their village after all. Spies and criminals could enter through the gates, and that would pose a dangerous risk if they were not being watched or being asked for their papers. As Naruto looked up in the sky, this was the first visit to the village that he had made. He didn't know where to go. Perhaps that is why Jiraiya had contacted the Sabukuna family, but he didn't actually need them to get by. He could ask around. The wind around the village though was a pleasant feeling. A kiss of nature. Someone hit him on the shoulder, as that just ruined his mood. He looked towards the man that accidentally bumped into him with an apologetic smile. Naruto nodded as the man ran off somewhere. Two more people then passed by him running. As Naruto shook his head. Different name, different culture, different environment, but people were still the same. He started to move as he found a room to rent for a month-long stay. There wasn't any hurry to see the Sabukuna siblings. He wasn't even sure how it would go since last time he saw them. He ended up battling Gaara. Well, it did end pleasantly, of course. As Naruto arrived in the room and dropped down his bag, as he sat right at the window, looking through it, it wasn't a pleasant view. Again, it wasn't really about the view, as he just looked through the window. 2 hours passed by until there was a knock at his door. He thought about ignoring it. His sentimental time was being disturbed. But he shook his head as he made his way. A young girl, the one that showed him the room, was standing there, with a warm smile. Sorry to disturb you, but I just want to see if you will take your food here, or if you will eat downstairs. Jiraiya would shout or curse, but Naruto would only smile. As he was renting a room in a 5-star hotel, the Sannin would cry over his wasted money, as Naruto didn't really spend all the money that Jiraiya gave him, and the man was more than happy at the end of the day to take it back. So perhaps this once he could live the life of a spoiled prince. I will come downstairs, he said. Can I also get a small table I can use to write on? I will speak to the manager about that. Thank you, said Naruto. She gave him the eating schedule as she walked away. Time skip, hidden leaf. A bandaged Jiraiya was sitting by the window with a frown on his lips. It was not Naruto did this to him, but Tsunade had to greet him with a beating, and he couldn't do his job with his body in pain. I can't believe you, damn pervert, Tsunade said, as she sent a harsh glare his way. He moved slightly. He was ready to dive through the window if Tsunade made a move. One beating was enough. He just couldn't take another one. I couldn't help myself, he said. When I came in, I felt that I was being called. Being called my ass, said Tsunade. For more than 2 years you don't show up, And the first thing you do when you do show up is go on a peeping tour? He didn't bother coming to see her. He didn't come through the gates. If it wasn't because of all the complaints, she wouldn't even know that he was in the village. Didn't he know that she missed him? Well, she would never admit that to him. Also, there was a lot to talk about that could not be sent through letters. It's been over 2 years, damn it. I was gonna come, Haim, said Jiraiya. You didn't have to beat me like that. Not to mention you tear up my scripts. I've been working on that for some time, he said, with a glare. Tsunade shrugged curiously. I should have someone remove all of those dirty images in your head, she said. Jiraiya would never permit something like that. The things that he had stored in his mind was a work of art that was just needed a paper, a canvas to be spread upon. Anyway, what did Naruto say when you said that you were gonna come here? For a moment, Jiraiya thought of lying, but he chose not to do so. Nothing, he said. Tsunade was silent for a few moments. At this point, it was getting dangerous, but she didn't want to get suspicious or cast doubt on Naruto, but he could not mope around forever. Or maybe he was not moping. Perhaps he just had nothing to say, after all. He hasn't had that much good memories inside Konoha. As far as she knew, the only good thing that occurred for him was when the people cheer when he won his match at Chunin exams. But that was the only thing. All other members are bad. And the third, former advisors, seem rather worried about that. Then again, they had dinner with Danzo, their little secret talks, and she didn't trust that man all too well. But they kept on bothering her about Naruto returning to the Leaf. And she certainly didn't want Naruto to stay out there in the wilderness. She was sure that he would be here when he was needed though. I was thinking perhaps he would have said something, said Tsunade, in a calm tone. He doesn't talk too much about anything personal. Then again, we get along just fine. But if it isn't about training, he really talk about anything else. But he does talk when the subjects come up, said Tsunade. As Jiraiya nodded, he is not a silent person when you're talking to him. But he can be very silent, said Jiraiya. You see, he does this thing where he sits and doesn't move for hours, like a statue. As Jiraiya shrugged it off. Why don't you sound more concerned about it? Well, because it's not really a problem. It's like a force of habit. She sighed. The training is going fine, I assume. You don't really give a clear picture in your reports. Everything is going fine. If we end up taking more time, I will talk to the Toads about teaching them Senjutsu. But I will see what happens in the coming months. Forget Senjutsu. Why are you talking like you're gonna spend more time away from the village, Jiraiya? You have to start talking about coming back now. There's a limit to how much I can tolerate. I will talk to Naruto about it, but I did mention that we will have to talk about concluding things. Tsunade stared at him as the man didn't sound concerned. You're not concerned, are you? She said. You're happy that you're spending some time with your godson, and that you can make up some good for your past failures. Jiraiya smiled bitterly. That might be true. It might be selfish on my part, but I'm doing something good here. Naruto is learning, and he will become a great asset to Konoha. And there isn't anything that really needs him here. So he can focus on his training. I will talk to him about it. Let us just give it one more year, Haim. Tsunade sighed. The issue with Usu is becoming a problem. Naruto is at Uzumaki and his continuous absent from the village is becoming a trouble for some people. And me as well. If there is survivors of the Uzumaki Clan, would he go there or would he come back here? To this village that has treated him with nothing but contempt. Jiraiya frowned hard. He avoided thinking about this issue. He didn't want to question Naruto's loyalties. His sensei had never said anything about Naruto being a flight risk. But this was what Tsunade was basically saying. He could understand from her position. And there was also the Kyuubi to think about. What are some people plotting? I don't know yet, but I will eventually. As she sighed, who could think that the revival of one small village could change things so much? Well, you could understand why it was destroyed in the first place. Our world depends on Biju to balance the power, but they can make the power of Bijus worthless. The Uzumaki sealing powers were something we can never see in this world. If they have come back, people are start questioning, are they gonna come for us as well? A paranoid person like Danzo would also think, would they look at Konoha? Why would they turn to us if they have indeed revived? Said Tsunade. Konoha did nothing when Uzu was destroyed. Nothing. Mito was married to the first Hokage. We carry their symbol on the shinobi vest. Kushina was sent here to become the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Yet we did nothing after their destruction. Tsunade frowned, as that raised a whole new problem. We will deal with it when it comes. But if we are looking at it in that way, they have a lot of enemies. We still don't know anything, so it's best that we wait. Have you been able to determine Naruto's standing in this? No, said Jiraiya. He asked questions about it and talked, but he is not firmly objective against it or with it. You have to find out what he thinks. What do you have on Sasuke? Asked Navi. He followed Orochimaru closely, but I think he has been around the sound for the past months. We never saw him anywhere, and Orochimaru has been the one who has been rather silent. Tsunade looked thoughtful for a moment. Since he has a change host every 3 years, we can assume that his current host is now running out, so he's limiting his movements. This will be a good moment than any to apprehend him. Jiraiya nodded, but we don't know where he is. The Hidden Stone is a massive web of hideouts. If you go to one, Orochimaru will know, and he will escape. You really can't move unless you know exactly where he is. I expect you to find out soon, before he takes Sasuke's body. I personally don't care for the brat, but we can't allow Orochimaru to have him. I'm gonna be looking around for the next couple of weeks. I will come with something, at least I hope. What if Naruto? Tsunade asks. I didn't tell you? I sent him to the sand. He will be there for at least a month. If he didn't stop by the desert train, he should be there already. You could have said that when you came here, she said, shook her head. How long are you gonna stay here? I'll be gone by tomorrow morning. I have to do what I have to do quickly, before meeting back up with him. I have given him a month. It will be best if I don't keep him waiting by taking too long. Time skip, the hidden sand training ground. It hadn't taken him long to find a training ground. The whispers of the wind was just too much to ignore. He didn't care if someone was watching him. It was only natural for them to observe his movements. He was still a Leaf Shinobi, and maybe they had become allies once more, but he was using training ground without even talking to anyone in their ranks. And by now they probably knew that he was a Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. If they were willing to let their Jinchuriki run loose in Konoha, Leaf might probably do the same to their village. Although there wasn't any hostility between them yet, or since the attack. As Naruto moved his hand across his chest, the wind around him started to pick up before it died down. As he slowly turned his feet, as the wind gently moved around him, he needed to move with it as he started to walk around along with the wind. He jumped up and down while controlling the wind as it was moving with him. He did this for an hour as the wind coiled around him and moved past him. As he brought his hand up, the sand picked up around him as the wind controlled everything around him, before it dropped silently. He then clapped his hands together. The sand picked up around him by the wind, as it was like a small, gentle storm, twist and spin with the storm, dancing around the training ground as he stopped, as the dust returned back to the ground, as he was breathing a bit heavily than last time. Temari was watching Naruto. At first, he was just a brat, unimpressive, but then he did something impressive that shocked her. He defeated her brother, even though Gaara had transformed. It was something that she could never forget. He had sacrificed himself that day. He could have died. Gaara could have killed him, but yet he defeated her brother and returned him back. Now he was standing there. His hair has gotten longer, reaching past his shoulders, black pants, black shirt, with a swirling symbol in the front of the shirt. He had truly grown, look-wise as well. That was impressive, said Temari. As she walked over, he shook his head, yet a small smile on his lips, seeing the blonde Kunoichi. It was nothing, he said. Just require a bit of concentration and energy. He paused. You don't have a problem if I sit down, do you? A little bit worn out than I look. The exercise took a lot out of me. Temari shook her head no, as he sat down. On first look, it seems like you were controlling the sand, but that was not it, she said. As Naruto glanced up at her, Sabuku no Temari, the oldest of the past Kazekage children. As far as he was concerned, the village had yet to elect a Kage after Raza was killed. This was the daughter of that man. His memory of her was when she brutalized Tenten in the Chunin exams, and also when she blushed when she saw Sasuke, as Naruto seemed to be rather amused. What's so funny, she asked. Sorry, I was thinking about something. When we first met, you blushed when you saw my former teammate. Temari sent the blonde a slight glare. She didn't want to be reminded of that. I thought he was good looking and impressive, but he was a rude person, she said, as she had thrown in her face now. Well, you look delightful in person to look at first glance, said Naruto. But you were rather brutal in your match. First glances don't always reveal everything, do they? He said. Temari looked away for a moment. He just complimented her. When was the last time someone did that? Oh yeah, it almost never happened. They were all too afraid because who her brother was. Even though Gaara has changed, to the people of this village, he was still a bloodthirsty killer that killed people for looking at him the wrong way. She coughed. No, they're not, she said. I brushed you off at first glance, seeing that you look like some weak brat who was just playing shinobi with a headband. But you truly are impressive. No, you shocked me. I didn't think that you'd be able to defeat my brother, she said. Well, there's nothing that is truly impossible. Brother, you're speaking of him fondly. Last time you spoke of him, you were afraid. I guess things really did change after my fight with him. Temari nodded a smile. They did. I guess that is thanks to you, she said. I am a Jinchuriki. Perhaps it's the territory, said Naruto. You really have a keen eye to tell that I wasn't manipulating sand but the wind. You're looking down on the sand, strongest wind user, she said. Oh really, said Naruto. She thought he was mocking her. What's with that response, she said. Oh, no offense, he said with both hands up in the air. As he looked in the sky, I have been around, and I haven't come across anyone that said that you're the best in your village, especially with Win. Then again, I've mostly been dealing with civilians. I'm also a Win user as you saw, so that makes me rather curious. She just looked at him for a moment before she spoke. Is there any reason why you didn't see us when we were expecting you, she asked. This is my first time in the village, said Naruto. She looked towards him, unimpressed of his response. Are you trying to say you didn't come because you do not know where we live, and yet you found a hotel to stay, and even managed to make your way towards a training ground? How stupid do you think I am? He didn't respond to that. I wanted to look around the village without my host because it's my first time being here. Being able to navigate around an unfamiliar place is important for a shinobi. You're not always gonna go to places you know. She felt a bit embarrassed for the rant. She had jumped to conclusions. She glanced towards him at the corner of her eye. He was just staring toward the sky. His face was completely clear. She couldn't read anything from it. Sorry, she said. It was difficult to say that. Naruto shook his head. I led you to it, he said. She tried to figure out the meaning of those words, but she could not, and she shook her head. It will be of service if you came to our house. We are your hosts after all. I am staying here for at least a month. Besides that, I am more comfortable in my own private space. But invite me tonight for dinner and I will come. Temari blinked it usually. Go the other way around, you know? You can't always confine yourself to the norms, said Naruto. He held out his right hand. She looked at him for a moment before she helped him. Stand up. I need to rest up a bit and do some reading. But before that, you wouldn't have a problem showing me to your house, yes? He paused. Oh, you still haven't said that you're inviting me. Temari smiled. He was certainly a bit weird, but kind of normal weird. You're invited. Come on, she said as she started to walk. He walked beside her silently, as he only spoke when they arrived towards the streets, as he noticed a male population looking towards her. It seems I will have people blocking my path when I go back to my hotel, said Naruto. Temari glanced towards him. Why? How often do you walk with a young man around here, Temari? Naruto asked. She was caught off guard by the question, as she stuttered her response. Why are you asking that? She said. Well, that reaction is a bit interesting. I'm guessing that you don't do that, said Naruto. Surprised. I'm truly surprised. I mean, you're a beautiful woman. I thought both lustful and madly in love boys would be throwing themselves at you. She frowned. They can't do that. They're afraid. As she paused, they're afraid of my brother. And thank you. For? Said Naruto. He knew why, but he just wanted her to say it. She sent him a look. He laughed as he raised his hand. Forgive me for that, he said. I just thought you'd be adorable if you said it yourself. But there's no need to thank me. I'm not giving you a favor by complimenting you. You just need to smile and appreciate it, because it's the truth. Well, I can't think Gar would compliment you and your older brother. As he paused. What of my older brother? She asked. Nothing, said Naruto. He didn't step into her house. He just nodded as he turned to leave. She offered to walk him back to the hotel, but he shook his head. It was a gentleman's duty to walk the lady home. Her reaction was a bit amusing once more. Later that night, there was no emotion being shown on his face. Gar was happy knowing that Naruto was going to be coming to have dinner with them. The blonde had told him some important words that changed the way that he viewed life. He was content with the way his life was, and the voices in his mind have died down. He could now sleep peacefully. It was safe to say that he was now at peace. He wouldn't go as far as say he was happy, but everything was well. His siblings did not look at him with fear, and everything was fine. He still needed to do a lot to change things for his past behavior. His actions were wrong, and he could only admit those wrongs. But Naruto was the reason that his whole life and his outlook on life has changed. Why didn't you invite him to come and stay with us? Gaara asked. I did. He said he was fine being alone, said Temari. Alone. Those words got her thinking. As Naruto was like Gaara, but he hadn't been bloodthirsty or frightening, but he was still alone. He didn't have family, and he didn't have friends. A miserable existence. That was for the fate of all Jinchuriki, it seems. We do have enough room here, Gaara said. He did not understand why Naruto would want to come and stay here. But if someone didn't want to do something, you didn't have to force them, lest you would make them uncomfortable. Well, that is his decision, said Gaara. Isn't it fine that things are? Said Kankuro. Let her. Didn't say that we have to give him a place to stay. That may be true, but we were asked to make him feel comfortable and look out for him while he was here, said Gaara. A woman that helped her in their house came in with Naruto to the dining room. She then walked away, as Temari realized Naruto was dressed differently from earlier. He must have been wearing training clothes, and his hair was no longer out of place. Naruto, please come through. Gaara's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. As Naruto nodded, Temari had a smile and Kankuro looked rather bored. He must be thinking on working and tweaking his puppets. As Naruto sat down next to him and faced Gaara. Thank you for welcoming me to your home. Gaara shook his head. You helped me. This is nothing, he said. Although he told Temari she could invite him, he was feeling a bit out of place. He hadn't even eaten that much with Jiraiya. He really had to stop putting himself in difficult situations. He could not let his discomfort show. He tried, but he couldn't speak for the first couple of moments. He responded to questions until they finished eating. As they moved to another room, how are things in Konoha anyway? Gaara asked. Actually, I haven't been in a leaf for more than 2 years, said Naruto. The siblings were surprised. Later, did not say anything about that. And they hadn't been to the village since the invasion. As with the talks, things were a bit difficult between them. Why? Said Temari. Training trip, said Naruto. She was still surprised. You haven't been home for that long and you were just training? What else have you been doing? She asked. No, traveling around. The world is huge. And there's many places to visit. That is why it's a trip. I didn't think that you need to train more. You were already strong when you were a genin, said Gaara. I did not defeat you because I was stronger than you, said Naruto. You can't think that. I defeat you because you had a weakness that I could expose. I still lost in the end. Everyone does have a weakness. But some people just have a better way of dealing with it. Power isn't always determined by your physical strength. Well, that is something I can agree on. How are things around here? Never followed in negotiations between Leaf and Stan. Then again, Genins are not given that kind of information. Wait, said Kankuro. You're still a Genin? He asked, as he was surprised. I've been away from Leaf for over the past 2.5 years. I haven't been able to participate in the Chunin exams, said Naruto. I can't imagine myself play over that field though. I think I would laugh over those who are repeated offenders. Temari laughed at that. We are all Jonin, she said. But you're not too old to enter the exams. I do think that you're much stronger than a Genin rank. I don't usually think about that. But it might pose a problem with taking mission, said Naruto. Get to do chores, while those higher do mission ranks. I'm sure they won't give you chores, said Gaara. As you can see, things are a bit difficult, but we're managing. Your leave note that you want to make you Kasakage, said Kankuro. It's nothing, said Gaara. As Naruto smiled, that was something interesting. Gaara, the 5th Kasakage, in what world he was living in. They were certainly more suitable candidates, but he was going to ask why. It wasn't his business still. With a Jinjutsu like Gaara in his past, it was good that he was becoming Kage. He was truly going to become the youngest Kage. And since he doesn't look like a bad person, things we're going to go well with Konoha. Congratulations, Gaara, said Naruto. I think that is something special regardless of the reasons. Apparently, they wouldn't put the Jinjutsu up as a figurehead. After all, the Sand didn't pretend to be strong at the moment. They could not. They have shown that they were weak, seeing that they were unable to do much in the invasion after the Sound retreated. Not yet, said Gaara. They're still considering it. This village doesn't have an official Kage since the past Kage. There has been someone who assumed the role of a leader, but no Kage. You still have to be appointed and do the job worthy of a Kage to be congratulated. You will do a great job, Gaara. You have us to back you up, said Temari. Family, Naruto thought. As he lost his smile, he stayed with him for a bit longer. But once time came for him to leave, he bid him farewell. It hadn't been a bad night. A bit uncomfortable, but he made his way through it. Are you going to be using the training grounds oftenly? Naruto nodded. This is also a part of my training trip. I'll come and fetch you tomorrow around 9 AM. I'll show you another training ground, where you can train privately. If I feel like it, I might join you. You sounded a bit skeptical when I said I was the strongest wind user in the sand, said Temari. Naruto smiled. I wasn't. But it would be lovely to have you join me, Temari. You are another wind user after all. Gaara alone said that he would want Naruto. Kankuro wanted to follow, but he was told to stay behind and obey. I actually wanted to talk to you. I have come to consider you as a friend, and I hope that we can be friends. It can happen, said Naruto. I thought so, said Gaara. I'm not actually being made Kazekage because of my abilities. The village council just fears me, and they want to keep me happy and in control. By giving me this responsibility, they probably think I'll wake up one day and destroy them. The change hasn't done anything to lift the burden. It has made them more suspicious, since they can't tell what I'm thinking now. They are putting me on the pedestal to say, we trust you, and we want you to lead us. But I know the truth, said Gaara. Even so, I will accept the job. They probably think I will fail, but I will not. I have done many things that I do not deserve to be forgiven for. But I want to try and correct what I did in the past, and I cannot erase it. But at least I want to try and protect the future. As Naruto was silenced by those words, he was surprised. He then spoke. Forgiveness is truly something difficult, especially when you have filled your heart with nothing but hate. But it only damages those who hate. I've never seen anyone that truly steps out of the darkness to march in the light the same way as you. People truly never want to accept that they're wrong, and they're willing to forget the past and pretend that it even happened. It's safer than apologizing. People want to be forgiven, but if they're not, they turn backwards. But you're willing to walk the path despite not being forgiven, said Naruto. And that is special. As Naruto looked up to the heavens, you have just taught me something important, and I will admire your courage for walking in the path. Despite standing beside those that hate you, said Naruto, and you still wish to do good. After all, that isn't something people are willing to do. Time skip. A couple weeks later, it has been weeks since he came to this village, and there has still been no word from Jiraiya. The Sannin had a way. Don't contact me, I'll contact you. He didn't even have a way of contacting the Sannin except through the toads. But the time here hasn't been bad, quite honestly. It has been refreshing. And he learned a lot about this village and the Sand siblings, as it showed that Gar was not the most loved. He was truly a menace in the eyes of the villagers, but he was still willing to do the right thing. And that wasn't good on Temari, because of how they saw Gar. She was honestly a beautiful person. Over the past month, he has been training with her. But at this stage, she wasn't going to get love in here. People fear her brother, and he noticed that Gar was a bit protective of her. Someone hurt his sister, the old Gar was gonna come out, and there was definitely gonna be a sand burial. Thinking of that, Naruto laughed. You know, someone's gonna think that you're crazy one day, said Temari, with a raised eyebrow. We'll always have an opinion, said Naruto, but I genuinely don't care what people think of me. Indifference. Temari realized it was something he had about a lot of things, not really caring about certain things. It didn't bother him in the slightest. She didn't really know anything personal about Temari's views. She couldn't tell. He spoke of himself like he used I. There was this lack of connection, like he was not fully there for some reason. Purposeful. Was he doing it on purpose? Temari, you're staring, said Naruto. I was thinking, she said. I would assume so, said Naruto. Are you here for a session? Or do you find something interesting in my body that you like, Naruto asked. I realize I won't win any beauty contests, but you certainly won't get eye burns from looking at me. She smiled. At least he still be honest about everything. She liked it about him. I brought my fan, she said. He suddenly jumped up in the air. Wind style, great wind breakthrough. Powerful bursts of air slammed into Temari, throwing her backwards. She flipped several times before landing on a knee. When she looked up, he was right in front of her. As he kicked the ground, as dust flew up, she closed her eyes. As Naruto twists and gave her a swift kick to her forehead, sending her flying back once more. He didn't attack, he just stood there, watching her. What the hell was that? She shouted. Didn't say we could start. You just went on to attack me like that. What if someone thought you were really attacking me? Naruto shrugged. I was really attacking you. Temari opened her fan rather violently as she swung it hard. Multiple wind blades sliced towards Naruto. Knew they could slice trees in half. They were powerful. As she released those in her anger, as he went through hand signs, violent sandstorm. As everything around him picked up in a violent gust, Jutsus blocked Temari's before dying down slowly. She flashed behind him as she swung her fan, but he stepped and disappeared and appeared right in front of her. He grabbed her fan and pushed her forcefully back, to recover her balance as she stood still. You should really work on your short-range skills. I dislike depending on one thing because the moment you lose it, you're out of your comfort zone. You already taught me Kinjutsu, but you never see me carry a sword. When the situation comes, I'll be able to handle it. Mari was a bit annoyed by the lecture. If you want to see my taijutsu skills, we can have a go. Shake his head, I've seen it. And I don't want to get hit by your fan again. She was silent for a moment before she massaged her temple. You're a bit rough though, she said. He wasn't very merciful. There were those that said they couldn't hit a woman. He didn't seem to have that problem. Perhaps that was a good thing about him. He didn't take it easy on her. He fought seriously. Gentleness. It's when we're naked in the bed, Temari. Well, unless you like it rough. Bam! She slammed the fan on his right shoulder. As she was flustered, trying to fight off the image that he just painted in her mind. I'm going to shove this fan down your throat if you keep on saying things like that. Naruto massaged his shoulder. Don't be like that, Temari, he said. You are not a child anymore, and I'm helping you get used to such talks. You are already at that age. As he knew that she was both older than him, Kankuro and Gaara. How can you be comfortable saying things like that? You get used to it, said Naruto. My sensei is a man who claims out loudly that he's a super pervert. If you spend much time with him, you will pick up things. For days I used to receive nosebleeds seeing him with women, but now I'm used to it. And I hang around there as well. They say things quite graphically when they touch you. She mentally slapped herself as an image of him being surrounded by a woman being touched as they whisper in his ears came up in her mind. That happens in the bars. I know you go there. Shrug. I don't go there to meet people or do anything. Then why do you go there, she asks. Observation. Maybe drunk people amuses me. And I go there for the show that they put up. Aside from madness, what would you observe? That madness aside, you say many people in bar. Happy, sad, miserable, lost. People go there for all different reasons. Some are running away from their problems, some are making deals. Some of them are just with the wrong crowd. And why would you want to observe that if you're not going to do anything about it, she asks. Who knows, maybe it made me understand people better. Or I just go there because I want to forget about the life of a shinobi. If you want to see Gaara liven up a bit, take him there and get him drunk. She tried to think about it, but she couldn't even form an image of that. She couldn't imagine her brother being drunk. Would he even agree to that? No, he would not. If he does, it was just gonna be one cup, and he was gonna nurse it for 7 days. I don't think that would happen, she said. Are you done for the day? As Naruto nodded, I've always been curious. You've been in your hotel room from noon to late. What do you do all alone? He looked up to the sky as he spoke. In my first year of the academy, I had no friends, no one. Kids avoided me, and their parents told them not to play with me. I sat at lunch breaks alone. In the streets, people look at me with contempt. So after classes, I would immediately go back to my apartment and sit there. What would be the purpose of going out if people didn't want me in the streets? Perhaps these days I do it out of habit, more than anything else. Temari felt sad at his words, yet she felt like she was missing something, but she felt sad realizing how miserable life had been for him. Have you ever thought of breaking that habit? I hold things of the past too easily, said Naruto. Just seem to can't break it. A couple minutes later, when he arrived at the hotel, he found a message waiting by the window. Jiraiya, he thought as he opened it. Time took a guy in 7 days. He could do that, but he had to leave early tomorrow. He wanted to travel slowly by the fire country. He could speed through the river country and rest. Once he crossed the border, time skip, Konoha, Danzo, we have to do something about the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Koharu said to the Warhawk. It has been more than 2 years, and he's not even coming back. Tsunade is not even saying anything on the matter. Danzo did not react visibly to this. It was a troublesome issue, but nothing new. But with Tsunade present, he couldn't get close to Naruto. But with the blonde outside of Konoha, he could make his move. Jiraiya was not always with the Jinchuriki. Sarutobi had stonewalled all of his attempts to get close. He had blocked him and threatened him. His former teammate was able to turn a blind eye on many other things. But whenever the subject about Naruto came up, the man was like a goddamn mountain, refusing to budge and allow him passageway. He's a flight risk, and we can't afford to lose the Kyuubi. We have already lost the Sharingan. We can't lose once again. He's currently in the sand, training there. The sand, have they selected Akagi yet? Koharu asks. No. If I had my way, we would have already taken over it, but Tsunade has been unwilling. Well, for someone who has fought in wars, she can be quite naive at some times, said Koharu. What are we gonna do about the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? I have a plan, said Danzo. Time skip. Naruto did not know how it come to this, but he was standing at the gate with Temari beside him, as Gaara was right in front of him, holding out his right hand. Gaara was going to become the Kazekage. He was currently being guarded by a man, Baki, the sensei of the Sand siblings when they were younger. As he was helping Gaara prepare for his role as the Kazekage, when he informed them that he would be leaving, he was told to wait for a day. They would be making preparations so that Temari could be sent to Konoha, so they could inform the village of Gaara's appointment to Kazekage. As Naruto waited, Gaara asked him, it was just a single day anyway. As Naruto shook his hand, I hope you come again soon to visit us, Naruto, said Gaara. I will try to make time, said Naruto, although it wouldn't be in time soon, he thought to himself. After all, he was going back on his journey, his training with Jiraiya, and once he was satisfied, he would think about Konoha and what he had to do. There was no hurry to go back, and Jiraiya wasn't complaining either. You will always be welcome. You have been a good friend, said Gaara. Please take care of my sister along the way. Naruto smiled. I will try to do that. But she's plenty strong, he said. Come on, we don't want the sun to set while we're in the desert. I'll be safe, Gaara, she said. You really have to be careful, Temari, said Baki. There are elements in Hidden Leaf that don't like the fact that things are being done this way. You never even know that other forces are watching. Someone might just do something to make sure that Konoha and the Sand does not return back to allies. Naruto could understand what the man was saying. Dangerous creeps were always lying in the shadows, trying to cause some problem. After all, everyone have their darkness. Konoha, and so did the Sand. Temari pulled Naruto away before Gaara could say anything else, as Gaara did not look pleased by what Baki said. It seemed like he wanted someone else to go as Temari guard. As they sped through the desert, Naruto asked, I never asked, how are you dealing with the change? Your brother usually threatened you, but now he's very protective. I'm just happy I have my younger brother again. He was a very gentle child before my father sent people to kill him. Our father viewed things based on their value, even people. If he no longer saw value in something, he would get rid of it. He tried doing that to Gaara, but my brother killed all the people, so he stopped. It was easy to understand why Gaara turned the way he did, but it wasn't even Gaara or their father's fault. It was the crappy Fuinjutsu members that could not provide the proper seal to contain the Shikaku inside, to make it corrupt Gaara so much. The Uzumakis would never be so pathetic at a seal. You look displeased. Oh, I just got lost in thought, said Naruto. I don't know what I would do if my own father was trying to kill me. Then again, if it was not for some of the third laws, I might have just hanged myself. Mari frowned. He could say something like that and yet sound so indifferent. Regardless of how you thought of it, that was just sad. Do you really have to say something like that in that tone? This is because this is the past, Tamari. That aside, I have come to understand. Only hopeless people think of ending your life. My situation was not hopeless back then. I had just had yet to see the light. I like to camp somewhere at the border of the fire country. Can we speed up a bit, Naruto asked. You do know I don't have enough stamina as you do, right? Well, if you get tired, I'll carry you, said Naruto with a smile. I'd rather you not, she said. Naruto laughed as he ran through the desert. By the time they reached the river country, the sun had set. They walked slowly for a couple of hours, until they reached a place where a stream was. Until they decided to rest near it. Fires were set and tents were put up. As Naruto collected the wood and did the fishing as Tamar watched. It seems like he was used to these kind of things, but his tent, it was rather large. And she peeped inside. It wasn't usual things that shinobis carry. Then again, this wasn't to make you suffer or feel uncomfortable. The same symbol on the shirt that he wore was on the tent, that swirl. Where had she seen it again? She couldn't recall. But it must be something important to him. She was alone with him, only separated by the burning fire that kept their bodies warm. She never thought being here right now would have felt so weird. They were alone, no witnesses. And he was a person that said things that provoke her to think things that she would have never think. It worried her. It wasn't her physical safety. It was her emotional state that worried her. As his face was completely blank though. She had to ask, I thought, that you'd be saying all kind of things now since we're alone. It wasn't that she wanted to tease her. Of course she didn't want that. But she had nothing better to say to break the awkward silence that descended upon them. As Naruto's eyes locked on her, he saw her breathing. She was not calm. She was having a difficult time. He could feel a slight tension in the air around them. Perhaps it was his silence. You have your guard up, he said. I'm waiting until you get sleepy before I pounce. She smiled. It didn't make her uncomfortable. It made her happy that he responded that way. That reminds me, I'm sleeping with one eye open. Can't trust you not to peep while I sleep, can I? You're thinking peeping. I'm thinking you wake up the next morning next to a naked me, he said. She fought hard with her mind to not picture him naked at that moment. He was glad for the fire so he couldn't see her cheeks that were red. So that she thought about it, she hadn't even seen his chest. He really liked to cover up his body. Not even his chest, his arm, up to his elbow. He was all covered up. He always wore long sleeve clothing. I would have to be dead for you to get that close. And if you do get that close, when I arrive in Konoha, I would be giving them my condolences for their loss, she said. Naruto laughed. You wouldn't want to kill your brother friend, now would you, he said. Well, I'm sure he will understand if I said that his so-called friend was trying to violate me, she said. Naruto looked thoughtful. Well, I can see him nodded, saying that you did the right thing. We will separate here, Temari. I won't go any further with you, he said. I have to turn towards Takamai. He was serious. As his tone was serious, it sounded like he was talking to someone in power, someone that was given orders and not be interrupted or disturbed. Why, she said. He knew that she was curious why he didn't want to get close to Konoha. My training trip wasn't supposed to take long, but it has been over 2 years and we're working towards a third. They probably want me to return, but Jerry and I still have many things to do. If I go near, I will be forced to get into Konoha, he said. And if I do step through those gates, I won't be able to leave again. My training trip would be over. For some reason, she thought that he just didn't want to return back home. But she couldn't understand why though. He didn't talk much about the leaf. He almost didn't say anything unless you asked. She didn't want to be nosy, but she was curious. Nevertheless, she didn't ask. But she had something she wanted to ask him. So, you think we will meet again, she asked. As Naruto realized something, he has grown to attach to this person that he would have liked. He trained with her. He laughed with her. He saw her smile, which was rather adorable. As Naruto smiled, as she saw his smile full there, he did not drop it though. He let it linger on his face. I don't really know, he said. But if you miss a training partner, let me know. I don't have a way of contacting you if you're not going to be in Konoha, she said. Sometime in 5 or 6 months, we will be making our way towards Konoha. We will see each other soon, he said. She smiled. I hope so, she said. The moment of peace settled in. She enjoyed it. How different her life had become over the past month. Things changed so quickly. But then again, she never had a boy who wasn't her brother close to her before. No, she had someone she could call a friend. Someone outside of her family. And it was good. As she glanced over towards the fire as the wood creaked as they burned. She didn't know why, but she laughed. And you said people are gonna think I'm the crazy one, said Naruto. She shrugged as she realized she was picking up his habits. I couldn't help myself, she said. She was glad he didn't ask what she was laughing about. Well, that happened, said Naruto. Say, Naruto, she said, as she looked deeply into his eyes as he stared back. She paused. No, she could ask another day. Never mind, she said. I'll ask you when I see you again. I'll remind you. I'm gonna check the perimeter. Take my tent for the night. I'll keep watch. Not for the whole night to wake me up so you can also rest. I'll do that. He would not. He did not. When Tamaru woke up, he was gone early in the morning. He wasn't taken. He had just left. There was only a letter beside her. A couple of words that didn't give her comfort over the loss of her companion. She hugged the letter though. For the first time since he came to the sand, she felt lonely. She felt alone. Time skip. Hidden rain. Power. Once you had power, you had anything. The strong rule and the weak fall. Nagato had power. The hidden rain had been wiped off the past dynasty. He crushed it. He obliterated. It was nothing more than a memory in the past. And now he had full control. His village had a massive population, but they didn't have strong shinobis. That is why it was considered weak. That is why it was weak in the past, but it was weak no longer. Over the past 5 years he has been building the military strength. It had shinobi that could fight. Shinobi who could stand by and fight the might of any hidden villages. Julkis were not a problem. He alone could handle them. He was strong. Konan. He glanced over his shoulder as a girl walked towards him. Itachi just left the village. Did he say anything to you? Konan nodded. Sometimes the Uchiha had a tendency to just walk away without saying anything though. His journey always made him end up in the Fire Nation. She always assumed that he was checking on the hidden leaf, but he never asked him and never said anything. He is going to offer his services to Uzu. Konan handled the Akatsuki, while Nagato handled the duty of the village. She handled the requests that was given to the Akatsuki and assigned them to those that she thought was doable. But Uzu was specific in their demands. It was always Itachi. Nagato went there occasionally though. I hope he's careful this time around. Last time he returned for the mission was over because he had put some people under genjutsu, said Nagato with a shake of his head. The Uchiha was smart, but those people in Uzu are not to be underestimated. Even if Itachi was powerful, they were not the ones to be fooled easily. The eyes in that village saw everything. We are going to be doing more missions these days, said Nagato, but it will attract attention. He was referring to range shinobis, but it cannot be avoided, he said. We are ready for the war, however the village will remain closed. It is not time yet. The Hidden Stone is trying to hire the Akatsuki to look into Uzu, said Konan. Any other village trying? Asked Nagato. Konan shook her head. At least we know who the enemies are, but we can't afford doing anything risky at this time. The risks are too great for us. But if they try anything, they will be crushed, said Nagato. We are going to change this world, and there will be no one that will stand in your way. Those who try will be crushed. We have been wrong too often, and just because they have power, they could get away with it. But no more, said Nagato. Konan looked down towards the streets. This was something that they managed to do. Secure the hidden rain, the village that was always in constant war, the home they fought to protect when Yaiko was still alive, and the home they now controlled. And Uzu was a good friend of theirs. They could not accept any mission that was going up against the land. What do you think would be Jiraiya Sensei respond when he heard that we're still alive? As Konan felt like asking the question. I wonder, said Nagato. But what he will say then is irrelevant. We have our dreams. No one will stand in our way, Konan. Not even Jiraiya Sensei, said Nagato firmly. But guys, be in subs right here. If you want to see next person to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember to stay tuned for the rest of the what ifs from the way, and I hope you guys enjoy each and every one of them. But I'm off now, see you guys soon. Peace.